Could Oda have already revealed the design for the giant King of Elbaf as early as 1999? On the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump issues 37 and 38 from August 1999, which contains the 100th chapter of One Piece, Oda was asked to preview important characters the Straw Hats would encounter in their voyage through the Grand Line. Clean versions of the images were later reprinted in Color Walk 2. These characters were drawn from behind so as to obfuscate their appearance. To date, only one of the four has been positively identified as Boa Hancock. Among this group of future adversaries is a Norse-themed character which I believe may be an early design for the King of Elbaf. In the extra notes for Volume 2, Oda discusses a favorite cartoon from his childhood called Vicky the Viking, which likely in part inspired his interest in telling a seafaring adventure story. Oda describes Vikings as his favorite kind of pirates, and briefly elaborates on their role in world history. In the One Piece world, the aesthetic and culture of the giants from the land of Elbaf draw heavily from Norse motifs. The introduction of Dory and Bragi, the first giants to appear in the series in Chapter 116, is accompanied by the first mention of Elbaf, their homeland. Dory and Bragi once co-captained the giant warrior pirates, but disappeared from the world stage 100 years prior to the events of One Piece, when they became embroiled in a never-ending battle on the island of Little Garden. Thus far, other giants the Straw Hats have met outside the land of Elbaf, such as Oimo and Kashi, have similarly Norse-themed designs. We get our first glimpse of Elbaf itself during Big Mom's flashback. We see the small village where she lived with Mother Carmel, ruled by Jurul and Jarul, two giants who preceded Dory and Bragi as captains of the giant warrior pirates. In the wide establishing panels, we see the silhouette of an object so massive it dwarfs even the mountains. Coinciding with the Norse theme, it stands to reason that this object may be inspired by or directly analogous to the mythological tree Yggdrasil, which connects the mortal realm to the world of the divine. All of the giants the Straw Hats have yet encountered have had some association with the giant warrior pirates, but we now know this band of seafaring Vikings do not rule Elbaf. Rather, there appears to be a monarchy themed on the Norse pantheon. Big Mom sought to cement her alliance with the giants by marrying her daughter Lola to the Prince of Elbaf, Loki, whose name belongs to the Norse god of mischief. By virtue of the fact that there exists a Prince of Elbaf, we can extrapolate there must be a king, and I believe we may have already seen a preview of his design. In the Volume 2 extra notes where Oda expresses his love for all things Viking, he further describes Vicky the Viking and other characters who take part in his adventures. Vicky's father was named Havlar, who fought with bronze not brains, but learned to listen to his son's wisdom. The design for Vicky's father is particularly notable. The sketches shown here are Oda's rendition of the characters from the original cartoon. As has already been mentioned, the giants in One Piece are designed with a Norse motif. The particular helmet shape Oda drew for Vicky's father is rather unique, crowned by two curved horns. Thus far, though many of the giants in the story sport helmets with horns, the design of the helmet worn by the mystery character on the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump bears a striking resemblance to that of Vicky's father. In fact, it's nearly a perfect match. The horn shape is exactly the same, and there is a metal strip running down the center and along the rim. No other giant in One Piece to date has yet worn a helmet with the exact same design or type of horns. So what could this tell us? In SBS Volume 54, Oda explains that the four characters drawn on the 1999 Weekly Shonen Jump cover are characters the Straw Hats are meant to encounter in the Grand Line. He confirms that the woman pictured in this group is indeed Boa Hancock, who was formally introduced nearly a decade later in 2008 when Luffy crash-landed on the island Amazon Lily. Oda declines to comment on the other three, indicating that, as of the SBS in question, these characters had not yet made their debut. We can intuit that these characters are all likely to play a prominent role in the story given Hancock's importance to the narrative. Some have speculated that the Norse-themed character may have been an early iteration of Bragi, but I believe this is unlikely. In Color Walk 2, we see an early concept sketch of Bragi which closely matches his final design. The preview drawings appear in the Weekly Shonen Jump issue containing Chapter 100. Bragi is fully introduced just a few months later in Chapter 116, so it is unlikely his design would have changed so drastically in such a short period of time. The helmets worn by Jurul and Jarul more closely match the horn shape of the mystery giant from the Jump cover, but like Dory and Bragi, they ultimately play a relatively minor role in the story. It would stand to reason that very prominent characters who play an important role in the narrative are most likely to be planned or imagined furthest out. For example, the yet-to-be-identified concept sketch of the top-knotted samurai may have been an early version of Kozuki Oden. Though the design does not strongly resemble Oden's final appearance, it is important to remember the 20 intervening years between concept and execution. Oden first appeared in full in Chapter 960, published in 2019. We know that the character pictured on the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump was likely to be an important samurai figure, and Oden certainly fits that bill. The boxing gloves, armor, and long golden katana imply a degree of eccentricity, which is certainly apparent in Oden's final design. Oda very notably plans characters and storylines far in advance, though as can be seen by Hancock's final design, when compared to the preview in Weekly Shonen Jump, the fine details are prone to change. We see this further illustrated in additional concept sketches of Hancock Oda has published. While it is possible the Norse-inspired member of this quartet was an early version of Dory or Bragi, the characters drawn here are likely to play an important role in the greater narrative. Wano and Elbaf are two story arcs Oda has planned for a very long time. Oden was introduced into the story relatively recently, and quickly became very important to the narrative. I imagine a giant character may be introduced on Elbaf occupying a similarly important role. Elbaf is referred to as the mightiest nation in the One Piece world. It is located somewhere in the latter half of the Grand Line, yet remains free from the control or influence of any of the four emperors. There is certainly a question as to how the giants have resisted outside influence when their power is sought by so many external forces. We saw during Big Mom's flashback the predatory manner in which the world government has recruited giants to join the ranks of the Marines. Big Mom herself hoped to form an alliance through marriage between her daughter Lola and Prince Loki. I have long theorized that there may be a character or characters on Elbaf whose role is analogous to Kazuki Oden from Wano, with strength rivaling that of the four emperors. Wano's borders remained closed and its culture free from the influence of the emperors for centuries, largely due to the protection granted by its powerful army of samurai. We saw firsthand that Kazuki Oden nearly defeated Kaido in battle. It would thus stand to reason that the royal family of Elbaf, notably its king, may possess a similar degree of strength and importance to the overall narrative. So to summarize, Oda previewed four characters important to the Straw Hat's Grand Line voyage in 1999, only one of whom has thus far been positively identified as Boa Hancock. These characters are likely to play a prominent role in the story. Oda's decision not to comment on the identity of the other three implies they had not yet appeared as of Volume 54. Among these four characters is one whose design is Norse-themed, indicating they are likely a giant. The design of the helmet worn by this character matches Oda's rendition of 𝚑𝚙𝚅𝚅, the father of Vicky the Viking, the head honcho of Oda's favorite band of cartoon Vikings. From the Whole Cake Island story arc, we know there exists a monarchy of giants and that the land of Elbaf, the mightiest nation in the One Piece world, remains free from the influence of the four emperors. It would make sense given the similarity in design to Oda's sketch of 𝚑𝚙𝚅 for this yet-to-be-revealed character to occupy the role of leader or king of the giants, a character who may even rival the likes of Oden and the four emperors. Admittedly, there isn't a lot to go on here, but I think it's really interesting to look back on these early concepts and see what they can tell us about the future of One Piece. Let me know in the comments what you think about the identity of these three mystery characters who appear alongside the early concept of Hancock. Could the samurai be Oden? Could the giant be the King of Elbaf? The current Wano story arc is on pace to become the longest to date in the series. Once Wano draws to a close, Elbaf remains looming on the horizon. Wano was first mentioned in chapter 450, published in 2007, and first appeared in chapter 909, published in 2018. Over a decade of build-up and anticipation has resulted in one of the longest and most complex story arcs in the series' history. Elbaf was first mentioned in chapter 116, published in 1999, with many chapters remaining before the Straw Hats finally reached the land of the giants. Regardless of this mystery character's identity, 20 years of build-up and planning to an arc starring Vikings, Oda's favorite variety of pirates, is likely to result in a story of epic, giant-sized proportion. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you want to be notified when future videos go live, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon. Most important, let me know what you think in the comments section down below.